Much ahab to the family, much ahab to the tribe. Welcome and welcome back. I hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope everyone out there is blessed. Thank you for surfing the wave with me because I'm surfing the wave with you. Um, I wanted to take a step back and take a slightly different approach. I was going to cover things a certain way, but as I started surfing the wave, digging deeper, um, you kind of have to shift gears and go with the flow. And, I'm subject to it just like all of us are. But it's not only is it that time, right? But that many put an extreme focus on the supernatural. So I wanted to address it. I mean, even for those that don't even consider themselves believers in such things like the supernatural, everyone gets involved, and to no surprise, the common phrase we hear often is that the greatest lie the devil ever told is that he doesn't exist. But yet, this has to be the greatest false witness one can bear because everyone, one way or another, believes in the devil. Because in truth, the greatest lie the devil ever told is that that me, shall be like God. And I want to be clear, by confusing and conflating God with the Creator, we no longer see clearly what a God is. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've heard of the phrase "gods amongst men." You know, um, that's not by happenstance. Now, there is certain things that we need to touch base on uh, because there's something called, I'm pretty sure you heard the term evil genius, all right? How you have the superhero who has all these abilities and skills to overcome great odds, and then the super villain, typically isn't as strong in that same sense. The super villain is usually an evil genius, right? Right. And with that being said, let's delve into it. Let's start to actually break down why that is and where it comes from. Especially if you are of, let's just say, uh, of an Abrahamic religion or faith. So the question comes up when you drill it down. Um, you can drill things down pretty much into three words that all intersect. Um, they all come about at different periods and points in time, and they all relate to one another, while for the most part disregarding each other. And when you look at this, you must look at this from a temporal perspective. You must follow the timeline. When I had originally put this together, it was I was kind of thrown off, not necessarily amazed, but definitely thrown off by the order of the information. And then once I put it in a linear timeline of understanding, the picture became more clear, especially to the different histories and mysteries we hear over the years associated with these points in time. So the most recent of these words, because you have the Jinn or the genie, then you have the genius, right? And then you have the demon. And what really baked my noodle was in my research, was finding out that demon didn't have the negative connotation as it does today. And I said, well, that couldn't be right. So I went down this rabbit hole. And I'm going to share it with you so that hopefully you will share it with others. And with that being said, thinking of sharing, make sure you share the information. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, all that jazz for the algorithm. I do appreciate it. And of course, if you always want support, that's also in the description. You can do that as well. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So let's get to it. Excuse me. So when we're talking about demons, geniuses, and jinn, we have to first understand a few things. There was a point when we knew the distinction and said God went by other names that we commonly still use, although for other purposes. You know, when we're using the phrase gods amongst men. You know, by confusing and conflating God with creator, we no longer see clearly what is a God. You know, we have, I mean, pretty sure, you know, like I said, we've heard the term, you know, God amongst men. So once you organize the work, I find that it's easier to understand it by looking at the work from the most recent to the most ancient. And the most recent is the Jinn, right? Jinn are typically, just frankly speaking, demons, spirits, or angels. Now, I'm pretty sure you have related a jinn to a spirit. I'm pretty sure you've related jinn to a demon, but not too many people have related that entity to an angel, as it were. But as you can clearly see, the word itself pops up in the 1680s. And please pay attention to when these words are coming into existence and understanding the historical context of what's happening at the time, especially as you and I are taught what is happening at these given points in time. You see, jinn is a collective plural. I mean, you know, that's what most would say. And then, you know, the popular genie is the singular. Now, if you pay attention to this, right, they say that that Jenny or genie, Jinnee, 1840s, right, is how it usually occasionally appears, but it's more frequently with the more common Genie. Now, this is where it threw me for a loop because and started me down this rabbit hole, because it says similarity to genius is accidental. And I think that nothing can be further from the truth. So, taking a step back, let's go to the word genius. And again, you have to organize what is being said here and put it in chronological order. So 40 years prior to the word jinn, right, is the word genius. And a genius is an exalted natural mental ability skill in the synthesis of knowledge derived from perception. Let's get that one again from the top. A genius in 1640s was an exalted natural mental ability, skill in the synthesis, right? The synthesis of knowledge derived from a perception. Now, when you slide back further in time to the 1580s, it means in the sense of characteristic disposition, right, of a person, meaning the character of a man, person of a natural intelligence or talent. A person of a natural intelligence or talent. Hold on to that thought, because we need to go further back in time yet again to approximately basically another 200 years prior. It says here this is in the late 14th century, and as we have learned over the years, that would be roughly 1360s to approximately 1400 proper. And the definition at that point in time is a tutelary or moral spirit who guides and governs an individual through life. A guardian deity or spirit which watches over each person from birth and incarnation. Wit, talent. Now let's pause right there, because I'm pretty sure this definition sounds familiar, right? How many people go around here saying that it was their guardian angel, all right, their guardian spirit, or someone spoken to them from beyond the grave? But what are we talking about? We're talking about an incarnation. Now, it's funny because it says wit, talent. And the root word of witness is wit. Also, it's a prophetic skill. Now, if you've been rock with me, you understand that a prophecy is not only a foretelling, but it is a history. So for it to be a prophetic skill, one must have a firm grasp on the history of a thing to be able to, what is it? How does the term go? If you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going, or something along those lines. But then pay attention to this, because it says it's a generative power or inborn nature. Now, a generative power is the word association will probably lead you to believe like your plug, your outlet, But that generative is more closely related to generation versus generator. And power is power. Power is God. Little g, of course. But here's where it gets interesting, because inborn is not one of an incestuous nature. Did you know that inborn means aboriginal? Yeah. So it's of a aboriginal nature. Now let that bake your noodle. But let us continue, because I want you to pay attention to then what is a demon, of course, right? the meat and potatoes, as it were. A demon, the word itself pops up circa 1200s. So that's approximately 1150 to 1250. And if you've been studying your timelines, that at its earliest takes us back to who is Prester John. It also takes us back to certain papal bulls as well, certain revolutions. In any case, in the Latin, a demon is an evil spirit, a malignant supernatural being, an incubus, a devil. But to the Greek, it is a deity, a divine power, a lesser god, a guiding spirit, a tutelary deity. So it meant one thing for the Roman, but another for the Greek. Let me say that again. It meant one thing to the Roman and another to the Greek. Now, the Greek is very exact, vague, because you have to apply it correctly to understand it, but very exact. It's very particular. Let me say it that way. And these two, at the same time, in the same time period, competing for the same word, should really paint a picture, paint a story. You know, shout out to Aqua Battle. Is it Greek or is it Creek? Because the G is a modified C, meaning that they're one and the same. See, an evil spirit to the Latin, right, is a deity, is a divine power. A, malignant supernatural being is just simply a lesser god, a guiding spirit. But then you have the word incubus and devil. And that's where things really become interesting. And in the next drop, we'll cover that because we need to. However, in the meantime, in between time, we're talking about one's genius, lot, or fortune. We're also talking about a destructive or hideous person when it comes to 1610. Now, what was going on in the 1600s and 1610? Who is the destructive, hideous person? Who is the genius with the lot, with the fortune? You see, it does matter where these words come from. It does matter how these words are being used. So I want to end with this here because I want to really highlight this point. The malignant sense is because the Greek word was used for demonian. In Christian Greek, right, that's your Septuagint, right, translations, and the Vulgate for God of the heathen, heathen idol, and also for unclean spirit. Jewish authors earlier had employed the Greek word in this sense, using it to render Shedem, lords, idols, in the Septuagint. In Matthew chapter 8, verse 31, has Demonis translated as Deophil in the Old English, fiend, devil in the Middle English, right? Another Old English word for this was a hell knight, quite literally a hell knight. And I want you guys to kind of sit on that and let that rest in your spirit, right? Because we're only talking about a genie. We're only talking about a demon. We're only talking about genius. So let's be clear. If you show a natural mental ability, skill in the synthesis of your knowledge, which is derived from your perception, meaning how you are framed and how you are shaped. To one, you are a genius, but to another, you are a demon. To one, you are a genius, but to another, you are a god. Who's trying to disconnect us from our past? Who is trying to cut out the connective tissue of our spiritual person? Because I can easily point out to you and bring up the fact that they say that consciousness always is and always has been, right? As if it's devoid of God or as if it's God himself. And that you're here, especially if you study June and the like, for all of my black pillars, that you are consciousness having an experience here in the physical world, right? Right? Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, because if you have no connection to the Creator, then what are we talking about? I guess we're only talking about an evil genius, right? And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. There's an old quote from a great movie called Highlander. And in Highlander, the quote goes, Who wants to live forever? As a reminder and running joke. Because very few people on this earth lived and didn't see death. Are we keeping our ancestors alive by remembering them? I mean, you pretty sure you've heard or had that conversation where someone whom you don't know but knows your parents and say, ooh, you just like such and such. You must be such and such boy. Or you act just like your mama. Even if you were adopted, right? But they know. If you disconnect the past, you're cutting off your water. But we have to be careful at the same time. Because you're not supposed to put any power before your power. Which takes us back to Exodus 20. Take us back to the 10 Commandments. Really it's 9, but we can get into that another day. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been able to bless you as much as it has been able to bless me. And with that being said, I hope you're able to bless others. Much ahab to the family. Much ahab to the tribe. I love you. Peace.